well as to Palm Island, and they also provided expansion bellows for the multi-million-pound Dubai metro system. Welsh lamb exports to the UAE are also growing, and two Welsh companies, Welsh Country Foods and Randall Parker, have been certified as halal providers by the Halal Food Authority. The Welsh Government also has an office in Dubai that covers the Middle East and North Africa region, and which is a major contributory reason why Welsh companies have been so successful in the UAE. It has helped more than 600 companies from Wales, mainly through the Welsh Government's highly successful International Trade Opportunities Programme, to develop business in the region. The office is run by Lee Jennings, who has lived and worked in the region for over 10 years, and he is always keen to hear from Welsh companies who want help to enter the UAE and Gulf markets. So what is the UAE? It is actually 7 states who together form the United Arab Emirates. The two key emirates that most people will know are Abu Dhabi, which is the economic and political powerhouse of the region, and Dubai, which has set its stall out as the commercial and tourism centre. The other emirates have to a large degree been overshadowed by their two big brothers, but they are now also beginning to flex their financial muscles. Fujairah is rapidly developing as a tourist centre, and it is now also investing in a new free zone, the Fujairah Creative Media City, set up to nurture the growth of both individuals and businesses, local and international, who are working in the media, communications, design and technology arenas. However, at the moment, the key markets still remain Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Abu Dhabi is the largest and the richest of the Emirates. It accounts for 80% of the landmass, but that landmass is 80% desert. As you can see from the slide, if you can actually see it, the per capita income is very impressive, and this figure is expected to increase by metro system. Welsh lamb exports to the UAE are also growing, and two Welsh companies, Welsh Country Foods and Randall Parker, have been certified as halal providers by the Halal Food Authority. The Welsh Government also has an office in Dubai that covers the Middle East and North Africa region, and which is a major contributory reason why Welsh companies have been so successful in the UAE. It has helped more than 600 companies from Wales, mainly through the Welsh Government's highly successful International Trade Opportunities Programme, to develop business in the region. The office is run by Lee Jennings, who has lived and worked in the region for over 10 years, and he is always keen to hear from Welsh companies who want help to enter the UAE and Gulf markets. So what is the UAE? It is actually 7 states who together form the United Arab Emirates. The two key emirates that most people will know are Abu Dhabi, which is the economic and political powerhouse of the region, and Dubai, which has set its stall out as the commercial and tourism centre. The other emirates have to a large degree been overshadowed by their two big brothers, but they are now also beginning to flex their financial muscles. Fujairah is rapidly developing as a tourist centre, and it is now also investing in a new free zone, the Fujairah Creative Media City, set up to nurture the growth of both individuals and businesses, local and international, who are working in the media, communications, design and technology arenas. However, at the moment, the key markets still remain Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Abu Dhabi is the largest and the richest of the Emirates. It accounts for 80% of the landmass, but that landmass is 80% desert. As you can see from the slide, if you can actually see it, the per capita income is very impressive, and this figure is expected to increase to about $91,000 in 4 years' time. That's if oil prices continue to perform in favour of the oil-producing companies like UAE. You can compare that to the per capita GDP in Wales, which is around $27,000 or £18,000, so there's quite a substantial difference. Dubai has a similar GDP to Abu Dhabi. Most businesses believe Dubai's revenues come primarily from oil, but in fact it only used a moderate amount of oil reserves to generate the infrastructure for trade, manufacturing and tourism in order to build up its economy. Dubai's strategy of creating new opportunities through diversification has succeeded in bringing about economic prosperity and stability, albeit with a small hiccup a couple of years ago. For Welsh companies, the UAE therefore presents a good, stable market with great prospects. So how do you know if you have a product or a service that would sell in the UAE? There was an interesting article in a recent trade journal, which is a take on the old adage of selling snow to the Eskimos. A company in Burnley recently exported thousands of tons of sand to Dubai. Honestly. This was really a special silica sand which was great for equestrian arenas. It was bought by the Crown Prince of Dubai to use in his equestrian areas. Horses are a passion as well as big business in the UAE, with the Dubai Annual World Cup being the world's richest race with a $10 million purse. Statistics produced by the UKTI show that these are the key sectors that UK companies are successful in. There are many opportunities in the supply chain for all of these sectors for Welsh companies. The demand for quality products is high throughout the Gulf. It is important to visit the market, talk to people, research what the market requires, investigate if there is a requirement for your product or service, and determine what the best route into the market is for you. I'll just pick a couple of examples of these sectors to give you a flavour of some of the opportunities that are there. In the infrastructure area, for example, Dubai are building just outside the city near Jebel Ali Port and the Free Zone area a project called Dubai World Central. It is a multi-phased urban infrastructure development designed to meet the present and future needs of aviation, air transport, commercial and logistics businesses. The first phase of Dubai World Central was completed last year. This was the Al Maktoum International Airport. When fully completed, this airport will be the world's largest passenger and cargo hub. Over the next few years, Dubai World Central will also include a residential city, logistics city, an enterprise park, commercial city, an aviation city, and a golf city. As often happens in the UAE, they routinely break world records. Al Maktoum International Airport will be the most expensive single project in the world when it is completed. By 2013, it is planned to be the largest airport in the world in terms of freight handled, moving up to 12 million tons per year. The construction area of Dubai World Central is twice the size of Hong Kong Island, and it will have the biggest parking lot in the world for 100,000 cars, which will be 5 times larger than the current largest car park in the USA. Although the oil reserves in UAE are expected to last for at least 100 years, the government of UAE are wisely investing in building infrastructure and in alternative energy sources. They are spending $20 billion over the next 8 years to build 4 commercial nuclear power reactors. This will provide huge opportunities for companies in many sectors to participate in supply of non-nuclear equipment, from electrical to bicycle sheds. There's not time today to go through a lot on this, so I'm just going to skim through some of the points here. Religion has played an important and influential role in shaping the society and culture of the UAE. It is the official and majority religion and pervades every aspect of life and business. The Islamic faith places great emphasis on behaviours such as generosity, respect and modesty, which most Emiratis will display. Understanding Islam and the influence it has on everyday life and Emirati business culture is the first step to conducting successful business in the UAE. Family and tribal connections form the basis of Emirati social structure. Family comes before everything else. Loyalty between family and tribe members carries over into business. Hospitality is an essential part of Emirati culture and applies to both social, professional and business contexts. The emphasis placed on hospitality is closely connected to the importance of relationships. Time and effort to build relationships and mutual trust are essential and can only be achieved over time by face-to-face meetings. It may require several meetings or several visits to the market before the benefits that you are looking for are achieved. There are always lots of do's and don'ts in business, and it's more so when you export. It pays to gain an understanding of the cultural differences and the etiquette or ways of doing business, and doing the right things will always give you the edge over businesses who do not take the time or effort to do the basic research. This slide shows just a few of the things that can help you put in a position to get a head start on building lasting relationships. There are basically four ways, there are a number of ways, but these are the four main ways to do business in the UAE. One is to find a good distributor. As I mentioned earlier, finding the right company to distribute your goods takes time, research, and many meetings. Once you're happy with the arrangement, it is not uncommon for the distributor to issue you with a contract, setting out what he will do and what he expects from you. You will be expected to add what you want from him, such as sales targets, representation at shows, etc. And in the UAE, as in most Arab countries, bargaining is a way of life, and it is expected that you will also bargain too. You can set up a branch or representative office of a foreign company. Companies who do this can be owned 100%. However, UAE law requires that a local service agent, sometimes called a sponsor, and who must be a UAE national, be appointed. Generally, local service agents are not involved in the operations of the company, but assist in obtaining visas, labour cards, etc., and are paid a lump sum per annum. Limited liability company, this in essence has to be a partnership with a UAE company or a UAE national. A LLC is owned 51% by the UAE nationals and 49% by a UAE national, by a foreign company, sorry. Only the LLCs are allowed to trade directly in the marketplace. The majority of the companies operating within the UAE are therefore LLCs. Having the right partner or a sponsor is critical to make that work. You also have the free trade zones as the final one. This is the only areas where companies can actually retain 100% ownership of the company. However, there are restrictions on what companies in the free zone can do. If they to sell into the UAE market, they have to pay a 5% duty, but can only supply their products through local UAE distributors. The main advantages of setting up in the free zone are that you retain 100% ownership of the business, you pay no personal income or capital gains tax in the UAE, the company pays no corporate taxes for 50 years, and you can repatriate 100% of capital and profits. There are over 3,000 companies now operating in the free zone areas. Doing business in the UAE, indeed throughout the Middle East, can sometimes be frustratingly slow, but building up the relationship is all about building trust. And the UAE is a great place to do business, and I'm sure that if you do business there, you'll enjoy it as much as we do. There are many sources of help for the UAE, and all of these are shown here are good. If anyone wants a copy of this presentation, please ask Natalie, and she'll send a copy to you. This is a quote from UKTI, which sums up pretty much what I've been saying. The key to successful selling in the Middle East is getting the right partner, sponsor, agent, and travelling out to the region frequently. Parties require face-to-face contact, and they trust the British with the professionalism they offer. Many British companies fail to recognise that in this part of the world, they appreciate you visit them rather than sending emails, to which many times they will not respond. Thank you very much for your time. Fraser International, in association with the Chamber of Commerce, are running a series of seminars throughout Wales on an introduction to doing business in the Middle East and the UAE, and an advanced seminar on doing business in the UAE. Natalie at the back again has details if anyone is interested. And just in case you're wondering, that picture is indeed taken in Dubai. It's in the Emirates Mall, and it's the Dubai Ski Centre, and they actually have live penguins there as well. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to say detour because basically all I was going to say, he's already said it. So I'll just say, yeah, I'll go and sit down, shall I? I'll try just to tweak my one because obviously there's a lot of duplication of information. So I'm going to have to just do the points that he probably missed out and get you through the afternoon. Right. We are the Arab British Chamber of Commerce. We were set up in 1975, and our role was to promote trade between the UK and the Arab world as a whole. And we've done that reasonably successfully through working through all our Asian chambers across the UK, of which South Wales Chamber is one of ours, and also with all our partner chambers in the Arab world. In every Arab country, the chairmen of the Federation Chamber of Commerce sit on our board. So from UAE to Saudi, so we just had a big meeting yesterday evening, so they were all in London with us. So we have a lot of links within the Arab world and within the UK through our Asian chambers. Now, the point in the statement I would like to raise to you today is a statement from the late Sheikh or King of UAE, and he says, our relationship with Britain are age-old. We are so close with one another, and through this mutual closeness, we have found Britain is worth of respect and trust. Now, what that does do, it puts Britain and Wales, if you just want to make it a Welsh tentative, they've got an advantage. They've got a bigger advantage than many other countries around the world. There's a history, there's respect, and there's trust. And more or less, you'll find in the Arab world and in the UAE, if you've got British products, they have more weight to them. And people will actually choose British products at a reasonable price. They don't have to pay the cheapest price, but a reasonable price, but they will buy it from you because it's British. So let us work on that remit. You're starting with a very strong, powerful foot into the region. Now, UAE, that's where we slightly cross, is nestled between Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Oman, and obviously right across the Persian Gulf is Iran. It's well positioned, and you'll find that most exports that go into UAE are for re-exports, because it actually sends out most of its stuff to the other regions, to India, to Iran, and further afield. So it's a big hub to put yourself in, to move into the whole region, to a massive region of trade. So that's excellent position to be in regards to trading outside the UAE. But equally, you will trade with the other countries of the GCC countries. Do we know who the GCC countries are? No? It's Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and UAE. Now, this is a mini Europe. So that means when goods enter UAE, they become free circulation within those other countries. So there will be no clearance of customs, no paperwork, and no customs duties. You just pay it at one point. So that's, again, a key advantage of UAE. And you'll find that lots of British companies have set up, as has already been said, are actually manufacturing there or distributing there to the rest of the Arab world and to Asia. Now, who knows which are all the Emirates? I mean, they have been mentioned, but not in detail. You've got Abu Dhabi, Dubai, which everybody knows. There's a lot of times I find that people think that Dubai is UAE, but obviously they don't know it's part of the Emirates. Sharjah, Ajman, Quwaym, Fujairah, and Ras Al Khaimah. Now, the president is the head of Abu Dhabi, which is Al Nahyan, and the prime minister is Al Maktoum. And everybody knows Al Maktoum because of his philanthropic exercises that he does in the UK with his horses. So you can see how it's all split within all the 7 states and who are the presidents. But just for your information, I won't go through all of them. These are the other rulers. And a lot of times you find they do run their show pretty tight, and they do push for economic development in their countries. And as was said early on, Fujairah, Ras Al Khaimah are all doing a lot to try and catch up with the rest. We know Abu Dhabi and Dubai are doing well, but those two are going forward at a pace as well. As I said, you're going to get a lot of crossovers. The next thing is the language. Language is Arabic and English. English is used across all of the United Arab Emirates. It'll be hard to find anybody that doesn't speak perfect English. In fact, my journeys to UAE, the only people I find with difficulties are the Asian cab drivers sometimes who don't speak that well English. But what is important about UAE, it's a culture which is Arab and European, but they're conservative with a small c. So just because you find that it's very fluid, alcohol is available, that you can do whatever you want. They still hold Islam pretty highly in their calendar, and you have to follow the rules of Islam. So things that we would do normally here in the UK could be frowned upon, and you've heard many press releases of incidences where people have done lewd things on beaches, etc., and they got arrested. And that's improper even in this country. So I think it is completely wrong for them to do that. Culture has already been dealt with, so I'm just going to save you the time. But quite rightly, I mean, one of the things with culture, you've got to respect during the day, the prayer times. You've got to accept one thing I would say to people: when you do go and deal business with business people, be ready to have meetings delayed or put forward to another day or whatever. So don't expect that you're going to get that meeting exactly as you planned it. And secondly, when you do go into a meeting, you will find that while you're having a chat with them, somebody else will pop in the office and have another chat with them, or somebody else will pick up a mobile phone, rings, and they'll answer it, or they're under the table sending text messages. So that is pretty normal at the moment in UAE. Now, the next item here that we have is trade. Now, today Graham helped me a lot because he actually eked out the actual figures for trade between UAE and Wales. Now, as you've seen, trade between the UK and UAE has been growing and constantly continues to grow, and it's growing at such a phenomenal pace. In 2010 it was 3.8 billion. In 2011, it's 4.7 billion, nearly over £1 billion of new trade that's happened in 1 year. It's phenomenal increases, and it continues to increase. Now, the last figures, 2012, that's the last 2 quarters, obviously that stops in April, is already standing at 1.3 billion. Now, this is before Ramadan, because what you'll find is a trend in the Arab world on how they purchase things for their own consumption, etc. And Ramadan is due in July. So when Ramadan comes, it's a feast. It's a feast of food, gifts, and all sorts of things. So they start importing loads of more stuff. And that's going to happen in July, mid-July. So you'll find that a lot of trade is happening between this period, between April and July, for goods to get into there, to supply the demand for the month of Ramadan. So much is consumed and so much is wasted during the month of Ramadan in Dubai in particular. I think they hit the news last year about it on their wastefulness. Next year they're expecting an average growth of 3% in UAE. Now, 3% doesn't sound a lot, but it's bloody good compared to where we are in the UK here at the moment. So I think that 3% they've figured into it, the price of oil is going to go down. So that's how they're looking at it. But I suspect with the world the way it's going to, maybe the price of oil will shoot up if things in Syria and other parts of the region implode. I'm just going to quickly shoot through this. UK main exports is across the whole panacea of products, from manufactured goods, telecommunication, vehicles, etc. And I won't go into complete detail, but if you've got a product, you can find a buyer. It's either for UAE or for them to reship to somewhere else, because they don't just look on their own businesses. When you go to the Arab world and you find a businessman, you'll be talking to him, telling him, I'm in technology. He says, oh yeah, I'm in technology as well. then you start telling them, oh, I've got a cousin of mine who's in construction. Oh, I've got another company in construction. So I'll give you 2 or 3 business cards because they've got several different businesses. Know-how and training is paramount. It's very important. And I think that's something that they're looking into improving more and more of. And they're encouraging more people to come and set up offices, manufacturing plants to train people. And there's good financial support for that. So what I say, it comes from construction. And whilst people think that construction has come to a halt, we had the deputy ambassador of UAE in my office just for yesterday, and he's saying that Dubai hotels are full to capacity at the moment. They can't fit in any more people. So there's a big program now starting off to build new hotels. And now, who would have thought Dubai 2 years ago was told it was finished? And it's not going to survive. But they're actually going to widen their hotel capacity. And to consumption, I'll go back to what I said. They are feeding a whole load of people. They're feeding their expats. They're feeding the Emiratis. They're feeding the tourism. And tourism is exploding because a lot of people now are actually moving into Dubai and buying property in Dubai. There is a statement that probably a lot of people from the European defunct economies, the rich people, are moving to Dubai. So, you know, you've got very wealthy group of people going out to live in Dubai, like the Beckhams, who have recently bought a flat over there. So there's a lot of consumption. Have anybody of you been to Dubai or UAE? No? Okay. You'll find there's eateries after eatery, restaurant after restaurant, mall after mall, and you say, who's going to buy it? And they're all doing business. So it is an amazing place to visit. The other element, which is very important for the Middle East, is healthcare. And I think in England we're very good at healthcare. Whatever the press says about our NHS, I think we do exceptionally well. We've got some amazing doctors, we've got some amazing technology, we've got some amazing know-how. Now, what they want to do in UAE is to become the hub where the regional countries come and get treated. So they will start getting health tourism into the country. So, and it wouldn't be just from the neighboring countries, it would be from Asia, from Iran and other countries. So there's a big program to actually push forward the construction of new hospitals for them to become the regional hub that they're looking for. And to do that, they need all the auxiliary staff that they need. They need the nurses, they need the equipment, they need you name it, they need it. So again, if there's any Welsh companies, I think I heard earlier on there's a Welsh company that deals in healthcare. I think you mentioned it. And you know, these are great opportunities for them. Education, 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 I think was the old word that the previous Prime Minister said. But this is the same question they're having in the Arab world. It's not just UAE. They're trying to educate their students. But it's not degree level. A lot of them have got degrees. There's very few Emiratis that you'll find they haven't got degrees or MAs. But it's the skill sets needed to go into jobs. It's vocational. It's getting them to that level where they can go into industry and do what is necessary. And that is what they're trying to build on. And if there are training companies that can help them in that way, they are looking for them. And this is not just for UAE. We had the Labour Minister of Saudi the other day. He's doing the same. He's looking to find how do you get graduates, and we've got the same problem here in the UK, graduates into jobs. How do you skill them up to get into jobs? And the other thing which they hide behind there as well, a lot of the companies in UAE and other Arab countries are family run. They're dynasties. And a lot of times the top echelon stays the same, they don't train. And sometimes how do you get the top echelons to train up to modern business practices? So it's a very difficult one, but they want a means and way to actually reach out to these groups. And the other thing, which again our colleague touched upon, is green energy. I mean, there's a big project in UAE called Masdar, which is basically a zero-emission city. And again, they're pushing forward to build their zero energy cities. And obviously, we've got the technology. We seem to be at the forefront of it. And I think our technology and know-how can help them push forward. As you said, they've got oil, but they're thinking of the future. They're not just thinking of today. And I think that's an excellent thing to be wanted. So nuclear energy is one, but I think they want also the non-nuclear energies to support them. Now, when we look at all imports, and obviously they are a consumer country, and you obviously see jewellery as one of the main imports into these countries. And, you know, it's consumerism. It's consumerism at its best. And you can see us, I think we've dropped about 5th or 6th at the moment, but we're not doing too badly, but we can do more. The beauty of Dubai or UAE, business-friendly legislation. The UAE government is keen to support business and make people come, invest and stay and live in the UAE. You know, they've got an open and transparent system. Obviously English is very important because everything is done in English, all their paperwork is in English. So you'll find when you register things, predominantly they're in English. The banking system is next to none. I think most of the world banks are there, and they've got a big financial center next to none. They want to be like another city of London. They've got first-class infrastructure, as we talked. The airports, the ports, the roads, everything has been expanded, everything has been made larger, even a monorail that's coming through. And it's a pro-business government, and that's why they've also opened a lot of free zones. And you saw the number of free zones that our colleague mentioned. That's phenomenal. You don't see that in many countries, and they've all got specialities. The other thing that you have that's really important about UAE, UAE is a member of the WTO, which means it abides by all the international rule of trade. So you are reasonably protected on fairness and how you do trade with them. There's no foreign exchange controls. Now, when you do, as I said earlier on, import goods into UAE, it's a 5% flat rate import duty. But once you've done that in UAE, you do not have to do it when you move the goods from UAE to Saudi or to Kuwait or to wherever, you will not have to pay that again. It just goes freely through. But obviously, like anywhere else, cigarettes and alcohol have a higher rate. Now, I said we're going to touch on things that we've been touched upon already. You can still sell directly into the UAE. You get an order, you fill it in, prepare the documentation and send it out. But you can have a commercial agency or appoint an agent for yourself. But one thing I would come to the agreements, I think we've touched on the paperwork early on. Agreements are very important. You really have to put more weight on your wordings and your agreements. Many people export with just a piece of paper saying, we appoint you to be our agent, full stop. Now, how do you get out of that contract? How do you make sure they sell your products? How do you make sure they're not just parking your product to sell another one of another agent that they have? Please do draft your agency agreements carefully, because they're the best tool you'll have when you have problems. The same thing, appointing an agent. Do the necessary checks and balances. Your agent is your most important person in that country to help you push your product. If you've got the wrong one, you're in trouble. So again, take time with these things, your agreements and agencies. If you've got those two right, then you'll be very successful in the in UAE. I think we've touched on this pretty much so I'm not going to go through it, but what I will do is just deal with this one, because it's the 49-51% rule. It's not they take all your wealth. They don't take all your 51% of your wealth. It depends how you, if they're just a sleeping partner, it's what you agree. There'll be a sum or a fee or a license for them to allow you to trade. But on paper, they own 51% of the company, but they don't own 51% of the wealth or the income that you generate from it. So it's about how the agreement is drafted and what you're actually doing. So that's always confuses a lot of people on forefront when they look at it, and they're scared from it. So don't be, because there's a lot of paperwork behind that sort of 49-51%. Now, we spoke about the free zones. I don't need to go through them again because it's a done deal. It's a place where you can go and do whatever you want, repatriate whatever you want, and it's totally supported. So, in conclusion to my statement, basically, UAE is a great place to do business in. It hosts loads of exhibitions across the year. So do look out on the websites. They're very well available. They're on our website. They're on everybody's website. So do go and visit the exhibitions. That's the best place to go and actually make the contact with the right people. It's also a place to go on holiday. There was a chap once from Bradford, I think, or Leeds, who went on holiday, cast iron bathroom manufacturer. And he mixed a bit of business and pretty upset his wife in the process and knocked on some doors of bathroom showrooms. They sent him to somebody else, and he came out from that holiday with £300,000 worth of business. I'm not saying it happens to everybody, but these are the sort of things that can happen. So you can go on holiday and mix a bit of business with it. And for those of you who want to go and set up, it's a beautiful place to live in. You've got all the niceties, excellent schools, excellent hospitals, and the lovely food and culture. And on that note, I thank you.
Hi, so I'm Roy Clark from Evolving. Everybody has talked about how you get out to the UAE, and what we did was we actually gone out to the UAE. So what I'll quickly do is I'll tell you what we are, and then the pains and the gains that we got going out into the marketplace. So basically, and this is shot on. Basically, we're a company that's IT consultancy, marketing, and since we've gone to the UAE, we've got overseas sales. We actually started work in the IT consultancy field doing back office systems. We did web design. We then went forward into how do you promote a web, SEO, social media marketing, and we went completely then into marketing after the digital marketing field. We decided that the UK was a bit flat. Europe was flat. What should we do? We should move out. We should move out of the UK. We looked at America, and we looked at Canada. We looked at the UAE. We felt that the UAE offered most advantage to us. Myself and my managing director had experience in the area. We then moved to move into that region. We moved into the region. We started doing our own work, which was marketing and IT consultancy, and then we realized that we'd learnt by this process, and we'd like to share that knowledge. And we've linked up with sorry, it's shot straight on. We've linked up with Fraser International to actually help companies on the ground and become in-market partners. Sorry about the slides, but don't bother this. No, it's only a focal point. I mean, what I want to do is I want to tell you about the experiences that we had. Welsh Assembly Government, IBW at the time helped us greatly to get out there. We went out to exhibitions, we made contacts, we made friends. Multiple visits over 3 to 4 years. We did 13 visits. Cost the company £30,000 most probably in all. Some of that was grant aided. Other parts of it weren't. We started establishing ourselves. We started making contacts. It's exactly like trading in Wales or any other country. You need to make personal contacts, personal visits to meet the right people. We felt that over 2 years we built up some contacts, we built up some work, small bits of work, but everybody says to you, well, when you're here, we'll give you work. And that's key. You have to be there. and whether you're there with an agent or yourselves, it's very, very important. More than, I believe that business is about people doing business with people, but more in places like the UAE, it is about people. And you can attend a business meeting and not talk about business. And my colleague says, you know, he attends business meetings, and for the first 2 meetings you don't talk about business, and the third meeting, yes, of course, we're talking about this contract. A couple of questions, and off you go. Similarly, when you go to these meetings, you have to be aware of the cultures, as we've said, and there's a way of doing business, and you have to be patient. And we know examples of UK salesmen going over there and going and say, okay then, let's get down to business, when are we going to do some, you know, when are we going to sign the contract then, how much is it going to cost? And it doesn't work. And that person in particular didn't, the people that were seeing him were very, very polite, but he didn't get the contract. So it's all about understanding the culture, and it's all about getting over there. And we made the decision that we wanted to set up an Emirati company, an LLC. So 3 directors in the company, husband and wife and myself. Husband and wife founded the company in the UK. They've moved out there. They actually live there. Chris is a non-UK domicile, and that's the real way to make it work, in my opinion. Free zone, great for maybe distributing products, but it's limited to what you do and how you do it. If you are out there, and if you send your best team, I would never suggest sending second best team. Send your best team out there, which is what we did. The guy that set up the company, and we've made a 3-year, in our business plan, it's 3 years. He's out there to set it up. That works out very, very well, because my business partner says it's like Victorian England. It's all about people. You have to deliver at the end of the day, but to get the job, it's about how you get on with the right person. We decided to set up an LLC. Lots of paperwork. For the first 2 months, Chris will tell you, he spent hours in queues with bits of paper, registering himself to do business, opening a bank account, getting a premises, getting a sponsor. We refer to our sponsor as our sheikh. Extremely important. Get the wrong one, you can go down. Get the right one, and you go very, very well. And the only way to get the right one is by knowing people in the marketplace, and these people will advise you on the right one. And Salah, our sheikh, he's the same age as he's in the mid-30s, same age as my MD. They get on like a house on fire. The 5149, it's very interesting and it's scary. And when we set up the company, yes, Salah, you know, as far as the UAE registration of the company is concerned, Salah owns 51% of it. But you do back-to-back agreements between yourself and your sheikh, and you agree what the sheikh gets out of it. Sheikh works with you. If it works well, as has been already said, he actually puts his hands in his pocket and says, well, I got another business that I'm interested in. And he's my friend, and I showed you the way he works. I showed him your monthly reporting, and he has said to me, come and speak to him. So UAE is not very far from India. Chris shoots over to India where Mana is working, and Mana, same thing, few meetings, talk about family, talk about friends, talk about business, and we're now running a marketing company in Abu Dhabi, because Mana has a marketing company in Abu Dhabi that he wanted to shaken out, if you like. So we're actually doing 2 days a week there sorting that out. So it's all about personality, understanding the culture, and being prepared to roll with that culture and to make the best out of it. So we've been very successful in the construction area, in that whilst we provide software for various companies, we have a niche in the construction area. We've gained contracts for ourselves. It was probably, we'd say, in the first year, you won't make that much money, but in your second year, you'll actually start to make the money. What we did for working capital, while we used grant-aided schemes to get us out there, we took on board not only a sheikh as a business partner, but we took on 3 expats that work out there. They've got shareholding in the business, and they've put capital in, and we've used that capital to fund the money in the initial stages. We now, as well, we've totally changed our business plan based on what we've done in the UAE. We run our IT business, our marketing business as we do in the UK, but we also now, with links with people like Fraser International, we actually take people through the introductory phase, the in-market phase of trying to work in the UAE. It's slightly different, and what we've done for people is you can do licensing agreements. Nobody in the Middle East likes the word franchise, so you set up joint ventures. And what we've done is we've introduced people to people that our sheikh knows or we know, set up a joint venture. Okay, you're slightly diluted in the shares of your own company, but you've got somebody on the ground with a vested interest in making that work. And in the Middle East, they really want manufacturing. And we've found that we can even raise capital for companies in that getting money from funds within the Middle East for Emiratis to set up manufacturing facilities. It's there. So if you've got the product, and we have one company that does microbial wall boarding for the NHS. Where are more hospitals being built in the next 3 months than anywhere else? 16 are being built in the Middle East. We've gone over there, set up a joint venture. Their product is being made in the Middle East, and it's being sold from there, and they have a majority shareholding in what's going on. So my message is, you've got to get out there. It's pointless trying. You can gain from doing it at arm's length, but if you're really serious, send your best team out there, get out there, meet the people and treat it as you would treat this market, and make contacts and develop it. And there is funding available to actually get you out there to the exhibitions and put a toe in the water. But then if you want to do it, you've got to be serious and you've got to send the best team out. Thank you.